It is the middle of May 2019, so it's been a little chilly. Things are just kind of starting to grow. We are finished, I should say I am finished with the large flower box. This year I've got alyssum, all the different colors, because I think it was a little bit too crowded last year. So these will get very short, hang off the side. And I made sure to plant things a little bit farther apart. This year we got basically heliotrope in the middle and 4 different colors of lantana. So those are hummingbird attractors. Heliotrope and alyssum are more for butterflies, bees, but hummingbirds like lantana. It looks like the butterfly bushes are starting to come back. It looks like almost all of them made it, which is great. There's that wine and roses Weigela or Weigela, not exactly sure how to pronounce it. This will start blooming really soon. We have our Lindora benzoin that has not leafed out yet, so it might be dead. We're not going to be pulling it anytime soon, but we're going to have to watch it and hope for the best. Look how big my red twig dogwood is. Going to have to start doing a little bit of pruning to tidy it up a little bit pretty soon. But just look at all these flowers. Again, this is a native, and the dogwoods, I love dogwoods and viburnum. They get flowers and berries. Now viburnum, unlike dogwoods can flower and get lots of flowers and berries on their own. But viburnums you have to pair up with another viburnums. There's like a whole list of viburnums that work with each other. This black haw needs another black haw. As you can see, it's got some flowers. But if you had a black haw of the same kind of relative cousin of this black haw, it would probably have white flowers all over it. So that's something to consider when buying viburnums. There's the Korean spice. It's already bloomed. The little ditty again. Went with a lot of petunias this year, but Proven Winners has a lot of different color salvias over the last couple of years. Dark purple, light pink, dark pink. These are all really tall annual salvia, at least in this zone in northern Illinois. They can get up to a few foot tall. So if you like hummingbirds and you like pretty colorful flowers, get annual salvia. They call this orange. Doesn't quite look orange, but whatever. Got some sun patience this year because, again, I hear that hummingbirds are supposed to like it, so I decided to put a couple sun patience over here right by the seating area. That way you could be surrounded by hummingbirds in the summertime coming around to visit all your salvia. Pretty much got the same stuff here this year. Some maybe a black eye Susan. I think there's a couple of Shasta daisies coming up towards the edge. And this year I'm just doing tall zinnia and some Gomphrena mixed in. Those are annual flowers in this zone. They're good butterfly attractors, and they get really big. They really spread, so you don't have to buy many of them. I got these for $1.50 a piece. You can get them rather cheaply from your local garden center. So we just mixed a couple of those in with, here's the catmint. This is like a weed. I swear you never have to water it. It's going to come up whether you want it to or not. So looking for an easy to take care of perennial that attracts bees, any type of mint, especially low mint like cat's mint or Walker's Low, a really extremely low maintenance perennial for pollinators. And this might be one of the bees' favorite flowers. I swear you'll see it covered in bees in the summertime in the height of the pollinator season. There's a calamint, a couple more zinnias around there. I think these are a perennial Danthus that I planted last year. We'll do a quick look in front because I'm actually starting in the front yard this year. This is the shade garden. I planted a whole row of woodland phlox, which is a native around here that gets big, beautiful blue flowers in the springtime. I put a couple of boxes just because I'm a flower nut and I cannot have too many flowers. Planted a couple upright fuchsia with some Terenia. It's for the hummingbirds, baby. It's all for the hummingbirds and the pollinators. And there's a few bleeding hearts, except these are the type that don't get as big, and they're supposed to bloom a little bit longer than your standard bleeding heart, which is this one. This is a spring bloomer. and then after May it's pretty much done. So it's a beautiful plant though, and it gets really big. I mean, look at how it fills in that whole area. We got a New Guinea impatiens here, which is another like full shade tolerating plant. This I think I planted last year. I think it's like a wild petunia or something like that. That's another native. Not a pretty flower, but it's a native. Natives are great. Have one trailing fuchsia that we just planted. Got a bird feeder right next to it. And here's two swamps with two beautiful white Terrania. That's another one that hummingbirds are supposed to love. I have seen hummingbirds at Terrania from time to time. And then of course we have more New Guinea impatiens around there. So that's the front yard. I'm planning to plant a lot of maple leaf viburnum, which is another native, as like a privacy screen over there. And then next year at garden centers, something from Proven Winners. It's a pagoda dogwood, but it's actually one that doesn't get quite as big, which is perfect for small yards. I think it's called Golden Shadows dogwood. Look into it. It only gets like 15 feet tall, and it tolerates shade very well. Let's go back to the back. Not a whole lot is coming out in the garden right now. Here are those phlox I was telling you about. I actually planted a couple last year. This is what they look like in full bloom. Look at that. Look, that's just one plant. Look at it compared to the size of my mom there. See? It gets very big. They can spread about 1.5 feet. They get about 1 foot or so tall. And again, this is an Illinois native. A beautiful flower to get if you like native gardens. Now, over here we've got some prairie smoke. That's another native. It blooms in springtime. It gets like feathery kind of flowers. I've read online that pollinators like them, so we'll see if they do. There's the salvia starting to come up. There is the bee balm. I believe that's coneflower over there. So we have some same stuff as we had. It's coming back. Oh, you can actually see the Joe Pye weed. Look at that, just starting to come up. Isn't that awesome? Now, when you garden perennials, sometimes it's hard to tell what's weeds and what's not weeds, but there's no doubt about it. That's Joe Pye weed. That's not a weed. Well, it kind of is, but it's a weed that gets a lot of flowers. It's good for the pollinators. So there's the Golden Alexanders again. They're early bloomers. A lot of the stuff hasn't really started coming up yet, but look at this here. I believe these are obedient plants. Now, I've heard that these are aggressive, but my goodness, I only got like 2 obedient plants here. Are you telling me that they've created this patch of beautiful foliage here? That is amazing. Obedient plants are also natives, and they get little kind of bell-shaped tubular flowers that stick out to the sides. And again, it's a native, good for bees and pollinators. So I can't wait to take a video and see what these look like a little bit later in the summer. Little bird bath. Here's my Autumn Brilliance serviceberry. It kind of lost some limbs last year and it didn't look that great, but then again, the year number 2 of that red twig dogwood didn't look that great either. So I'm just going to fertilize a little bit, give it a lot of love and care, do a little bit of trimming if it needs it, and just keep hoping it gets better and better each year. So, and serviceberries, this one can get up to about 20-25 feet. So if it survives and it does well, it's going to fill in this entire area, and serviceberries just get tons of flowers, tons of berries for the birds. Great way to attract birds to your yard. Now, this is not a native, it's a cultivar, but I'm the type of person that I like to do mostly native, but having a few cultivars mixed in, no problem. Now here's the bottlebrush buckeyes. They are getting huge. I am in love with these plants. These again get about 8 feet tall. They can spread out to about 6 to 8 feet, and they get flowers in like the middle of summer that look like bottle brushes, hence the name. But this is another 100% native bush. This is another serviceberry cultivar. It's been smothered in flowers for like the first few years of its life. I finally moved it out and gave it a patch kind of all on its own that gets a bit of sun. They could tolerate some shade. So now that it's not being smothered, it should be able to spread out, start doing a lot better now. So this is a 5-footer Regent Serviceberry. Take one last quick look back here. There is the Vernal Witch Hazel again. And again, one of my favorite bushes of all time, the honeysuckle bush that tolerates shade and gets flowers that bees love. So that's another good bush. There are a couple full native honeysuckle bushes, but you'd have to look online. There's some that are cultivars. I believe that one is not a native, but it is not one of the ones that is known as very invasive. And some Russian sage, because we actually do get a bit of sun here. Once the sun passes over this at about maybe 10:30, 11, it gets a lot of open sun, so it's a great spot for Russian sage. Hostas. And the buttonbush, another 100% native. As I said in my last video last year, it comes back pretty late. So this is mid-May, and we had a crazy winter and spring. So, but even with like normal springs, it's not one of the first to bloom out. So, but this is another native that gets lots of little button-shaped flowers, like round, like Sputnik. That's why they call it Sputnik buttonbush. And eventually it can get up to about 10 feet tall. So to fill in this whole area here. Another beneficial native for pollinators and birds.
I'll stop for now. I gotta have something here. Let me fix you here.
We'll take one other quick look at the sedum stonecrop. I think this is firecracker. This one's called firecracker stonecrop. One quick more little look. All the petunias on the rail there.